It happens sudden, accidental, it's without notice, it doesn't give you any fair warning. And then one day you wake up and you're in 3 inches of water and there's water spraying from a pipe, hitting your ceiling, hitting the walls. What do you do? Because it's so far apart from where the insurance company started to where we settled. When we are able to go to our clients and say, hey, look, I know they wanted to give you 10 grand, but here, we just secured a $250,000 settlement for you. They're like, what? Welcome to Insurance Corner. On this week's episode, we're going to discuss the many plumbing issues you might find yourself as being a property owner. Whether it's a residential, you own a condominium, or if you're a commercial property owner, everybody throughout their lifespan knows and has dealt with, or if not has dealt with, will soon have to deal with a plumbing issue in their property. It's just the way it works. It happens. It's the course of life that you're going to find yourself dealing with, whether it's a backup or you have water damage throughout the property or you have a valve spraying water in your face. It's just something that, it's going to happen and should not only be addressed now, but also something that you should have the knowledge to be prepared in the future.
You are listening to the Insurance Corner podcast. This podcast is presented by Florida Public Adjusting. Tune in to get tips, information, and valuable pieces of advice on how to best handle common problems homeowners face with insurance providers.
There's many different types of issues that people go through when you are a property owner, and one of the most common things is plumbing issues, whether it's coming from a pressurized plumbing issue or if it's coming from a drain line issue or even an appliance issue. You have dishwashers, you have water supply lines that go into your refrigerators. Those are things that come unexpected. They're sudden. Those are some of the most common issues that property owners go through. Some of the things that you need to understand is, one, first and foremost, that you have your insurance policy before this happens. And then not only do you have your insurance policy, but you also have coverage for water damage, because that is in an event that you do have a plumbing issue, whether it's from a supply line or a drain line or an appliance. Water damage is what would be the appropriate coverage for these kind of losses. It's actually more common today. We're looking at more and more policies where agents are removing it or insurance companies are not adding in water damage, and it could be for a small savings. But at the end of the day, your $200 or even $1,000 a year that you're going to save now, when you have an event that's a plumbing loss that's going to cause hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, the savings are not worth it at that point. So if you are purchasing insurance, make sure that you have water damage on your policy. And if you have water damage in your policy, the best case is obviously to not have a limit on your water damage. There are some insurance companies that do limit water damage coverage to $10,000, up to $50,000. But some of the losses that we've adjusted over the years, $10,000, it doesn't really cut it anymore. When you go through something like this, you need to make sure that you have proper coverage in place. Plumbing losses happen from all, or water damage, I could say, happen from all different areas of plumbing. You could have a shower pan, which is a plumbing issue. You take a shower in your bedroom, which is adjacent on the other side. All of a sudden, there's water coming in through your baseboards in your wall because your shower pan has a leak. That is something that needs to be addressed, and the best way to avoid that plumbing issue from further damaging your property is obviously not use that shower until it's fixed. But in the meantime, what you need to do is make sure that you call your public adjuster so that they can help and facilitate the process to make sure that the claim is filed in its proper time frame and that everything is being done in the right manner in order for you to be properly compensated, so you don't have to deal with paying out of pocket for something that's covered. Plumbing leaks are one of the biggest headaches for homeowners and for property owners. It happens sudden, accidental, it's without notice, it doesn't give you any fair warning. And then one day you wake up and you're in 3 inches of water and there's water spraying from a pipe, hitting your ceiling, hitting the walls. What do you do? The first thing to do is try and find the source of the water and shut off the valve. Next, document as much as you possibly can. Take 1,000 photos so that you have proof and documentation that the loss occurred. Finding a source of a leak, if it's coming from a pressurized line, there are valves under your sink, there are valves by your toilet, there are valves wherever water's coming out of. There should be a shut-off valve, but also your house has a main valve that if you have to, you could just go outside, find the main valve. If you don't know where it is, maybe you could ask a friend to help locate it and shut it off. Some people do call the fire department. Obviously, if you need to and you feel the need to, 100% go for it, and they'll assist you with finding the shutoff valve. But that is the most important thing to do when you have a pressurized leak in your house. The third thing is to give your public adjuster a call, and we'll be at your house immediately so that we could assist in the documentation and get things moving, file a claim, get whatever mitigation services are necessary to help mitigate your loss, to avoid any further damages to your property. And then we take the process from there so you can get back to whatever you need to do to get yourself back to your life. You could have, you're putting up a picture on a wall and then you put a nail into a pipe. And it could start very small, you wouldn't even know. And then a day or two later, it just pops and it explodes. So it's, there is no way to say like, hey, listen, we just installed these pipes. They're going to last, 10, 15, 20 years. I've been to houses where they installed pipes and something went wrong. And then 3 days later, they're swimming in their house. It's no way to really tell, when it's going to happen. And I think that's what makes plumbing so important, because it's so unpredictable. When it does happen, you just want to make sure that you're prepared so that you don't have to go through the craziness, just scramble at last minute to figure out what to do. A lot of the plumbing losses that arise from a leaky faucet or a leaky valve or a supply line, not necessarily has it exploded, but it's dripping water enough that it's causing damage and you have to fix it. Most of the questions that I receive is that, Josh, my plumber came in, changed my supply line or changed the faucet and only charged me $120. What kind of a claim is that? That's an excellent question. That actual line or the issue that it arises from wouldn't be covered, but the ensuing damages as a result of that line breaking or that valve breaking or that faucet breaking is what your claim value is. The parts, say it costs you $20 to buy the part and it's $100 for them to replace it. The carrier would pay for the actual replacement, but they wouldn't pay for the part itself. And then on top of that, whatever is damaged as a result of that line would be covered. And so that's where your claim starts. And so whether it's a kitchen or a floor or a bathroom, or even if the pipes are on your ceiling and they burst in your ceiling and it starts to flood out from your ceiling down the walls, that's where your claim will begin, and that's where we will start the journey of the insurance claim process. I always say there's no claim too big or too small. When you find yourself in a situation where you have a question if something might be covered or not, you could always give us a call and we'll be able to help you to understand if there is a claim or not. Sometimes people are under the assumption that you only need a catastrophic event to file an insurance claim. Most insurance claims are not caused by catastrophic events. They scale from small to large, where you have a leak under your sink and it busted one morning and you're able to contain it, but your kitchen cabinets got damaged. So that's, people would think is a small claim, and why file a claim for something like that? Well, if you let water get into your cabinets, eventually you're going to have a much larger issues. If you have an issue in your home and you let it go on for a long period of time, you're not going to be covered. Your claim is going to be denied, and rightfully so, because you have an insurance policy with your obligations. That is to mitigate your problems as quickly as possible to avoid further damage to the property. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have a problem today and your pipe bursts and you fix it immediately and then you have damages as a result of that, that is covered. And if you do notice it even a few weeks later, you shouldn't have an issue with filing an insurance claim, because at the time of the loss and the date that it happened, you took care of it immediately. That is the most important part of your obligation. Just mitigating it, making sure that you don't have any further damages. Now, it's the best case to notify your insurance company immediately. So without calling a public adjuster, you're allowing your insurance company, which they have the full right to go in there and inspect it on themselves, and the adjuster that's going to be at the property is going to represent the insurance company. That is a decision you will make if you feel that you want the insurance company to have the full ball in their court, or if you want to have proper representation to make sure that you get fully recovered, you would call a public adjuster. I get a question a lot, like how many claims have we worked? Well over like 3,500 claims, and the most common question is, well, was it more water damage claims related to pipe? Was it more hurricane? Was it storm? Was it hail? Was it lightning? I would say, living in South Florida with older homes, I would say over 70% of it comes from faulty lines and water damage events. And it's just, we live in an area where the houses are from the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and it's just bound to happen. Not only older homes, We go to a lot of the newer residential communities that were built in the last 10 to 15, 20 years, and they also have issues. It's just a matter of fact, if you own a property, you're going to run into plumbing issues. Knowing that you would eventually, the best thing to do is just to be prepared before it happens, or just to at least know what to do before it happens so that you're prepared after it happens and everything's lined up for you to have the best possible outcome when you have to go through it. If you're experiencing an issue with your toilets and you're seeing water come up from the shower, it's an issue with your drain line. One way or another, whether it's PVC or cast iron, there's something that needs to be inspected to find out what the cause of this is. Today, you have leak detection companies that would come to your property, they'll run a camera down the line, and you'll be able to get a real view of what's going on. You'll be able to see if there's any blocks or if any breaks, if there's any bellies in the line, and that'll at least give you an idea of what's going on so that you could be able to address it to fix the issue. Now, how does a claim come into this scenario? When you have a backup and water comes over the toilets and then damages your property, or if it comes over the shower, in the shower you have a 2-inch or 3-inch lip and the water comes over it and then starts damaging your baseboards, your door framing, vanities. At that moment, that is how an insurance claim arises from an issue like this. It's your responsibility and the responsibility of the property owner to take immediate action to avoid any further damages. At that point, if it's a specific toilet that you know that you used, my advice would be to stop using it for the meantime. If you can, get a plumber out there. If the line can be snaked, you can snake the line. In some of the older cast iron lines, you'd have areas where it's cracked, and because of the areas that it's cracked, it's causing buildup in the line, and which is not allowing for there to be a proper drain flow, which in turn will cause water to enter your home from areas that it's not supposed to enter and it's supposed to drain out of. Something that you could do when we're dealing with that specific type of drain line is have a company come and snake it out. If they're able to snake it out and clear it out, that's a temporary solution, which is also a form of mitigating your damages, which would be beneficial for your insurance claim. And the next step would be, you need to contact your public adjuster. We would go in there, inspect the loss, take a look at the policy, make sure that all your coverages are in line, and then we would proceed with the filing of an insurance claim. When we bring out the insurance company to your property, our first step is to go over the damages, explain to them how this happened, and then what steps that you took as the homeowner to avoid any further damages. And then with the help of a leak detection or a plumbing expert, we would be able to prove that this line is indeed broken and needs to be replaced. And then the insurance company is responsible for the access of that line, and then whatever it's going to cost to bring your house to the pre-loss condition prior to any access or any water entering your home. One of the common questions we get also in these cases, where it's not a pressurized line but it's also a drain line, is the insurance company responsible for the actual line itself? The insurance company is responsible to access the slab and replace everything back to its pre-loss condition. The line itself would fall under the responsibility of the property owner. If you are having a plumbing company come out and access the slab, make sure that on the receipts that they give you a separate line item for the pipe itself, and then also a separate item for the access. And that way, when it comes to getting reimbursed, the insurance company will have a clear understanding of what is owed to you. We had an insurance claim where it was a single mother and her 2 daughters living in a house where they couldn't use the bathrooms, and it was with a particular insurance company which is now insolvent. I guess it makes sense, because like every claim that we've ever had with them was just, it was a mess, and it was unfortunate to the people that had to go through it. I'm not going to mention the carrier's name. Either way, there was a mother and these 2 daughters that had an issue with their plumbing line. The insurance company opened coverage. They agreed that they have an issue, it has to be resolved. They said the claim was under-deductible. We argued the fact, but not everything is in our control. As we're pushing the claim along and speaking to the examiner, the manager, the supervisor, the adjuster, whoever it was, to get these mother and her 2 daughters a working toilet or bathrooms, we did. The carrier in this particular instance just kept on delaying it, sending out experts, sending out more inspections and more inspections and more inspections, until it's like they're using the bathroom now at Walmart next door, because it got that bad where snaking the line and jetting the line or whatever it was, the line was so collapsed and broken that they couldn't use the bathrooms in their house anymore. We went through this for a good 6-7 months, which seems like a very long time, and for them it probably felt like a couple years, but thank God at the end the results were excellent. We were fortunate to have somebody that has a heart at the insurance company and has half a brain. That's not nice, but Somebody that actually, when you speak to them, it's not a robot. Say, look, this is what's going on. They need this. It's immediate. You're putting their lives in danger. It's not a safe situation. And she was amazing. This lady, she came through for my client. They heard what we had to offer. And the best part about it was when push came to shove and we had to back up what we were claiming, everything that our company did was utilized. Testing, inspections, engineer inspections, reports, all of that stuff that we paid out of pocket as the company to facilitate, to make sure that she had the best results. When it came into play, it was knocked out of the park. At the end of the day, she was fully compensated. She got her home back in working condition. I actually went to go see her. She called me out of the blue. She's like, Josh, I need you to come and see what we were able to do with your help. It was remarkable. It was an amazing experience to go through that, and everything's good now. So unfortunately, it happens when you go through an insurance claim. You don't have any control of who's going to look at the file and if they had a good day or a bad day, or they had their coffee in the morning, or they're fighting with their spouse. But what you do have control over as a property owner is who's going to represent you. It's super important to have the best representation, to make sure that if you do end up with one of those people who thinks that they own the insurance company, you have the right representation in place to get you the best results. If she did not have any representation, she would have had to pay out of pocket. They wouldn't have given over the deductible, which is what their original stance was, and there was no way that she would be able to do it on her own. And it's not just her, it's any property owner. It's a full-time thing, and you have to know what to do, and you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to understand the arguments that need to be made. You have to understand what position the insurance company is so that you could present your position and try and reach a good agreement for your property. It's an expertise. This is what a public adjuster does. We don't pretend to be accountants when we're not accountants. We don't pretend to be lawyers when we're not lawyers. But we know and understand insurance claims, and we understand what rights you have to recovery, and we exercise it to the best of our ability to make sure that you get fully compensated. When you're able to help somebody in a situation where they're in dire straits and they have nowhere to turn to, and you're that person that they turn to, it's one of the best feelings in the world. And then not only that, but to deliver at the end of the day, to watch them take the funds that they were recovered to fix their properties, getting before and after photos of like, Josh, look what we did. It's unbelievable. It's a great feeling, and it's why we're here, based on the idea of being able to be there and helping people. It's extremely important when you go through any type of claim, but especially a plumbing claim, that you have to keep all the materials that are there. Just for an example, if you have a leaking valve, right, and it sprays water, and you shut off your water and you have the plumber come and fix it, keep the parts. Let the insurance company inspect it. Don't remove your kitchen unless it's really very necessary, but even when you do remove it, make sure it stays on the property, because the last thing you want is for the insurance company to say, well, hey, we came to the property, there was nothing here, and we had nothing to inspect, and you're just claiming this, but it's prejudice, we have to deny the claim. Also, on top of that, you need to document it. So if you are going through it, even though you have everything in bags outside your property, photos, videos, all of that is super beneficial when dealing with an insurance claim, because at the end of the day, in the insurance company's defense, they're coming in after the fact. It's your job, it's our job to show them the facts and what happened. And for us to be able to do that, you need to also do your part as well, where you save the items that got damaged. If there was anything that was replaced, save the one prior to the replacement, whether it was a valve or supply line or whatever it was. That just helps move the process along. It's a smoother transition when going through it. Insurance companies do not cover the pipes outside your house. They only are responsible to pay for what's inside the structure. Now, if you have a broken line and the line broke as a result of wear and tear, the insurance company won't pay for the line. They'll pay for the ensuing damages to the property. And they will also pay for the access. So if the line is under the ground and it's coming up through a sleeve, and you would have to access the slab in order to replace it or repair it, the insurance company is not going to be responsible for the line in that case either. Anything inside your dwelling, inside the structure, would be covered, even underneath the slab. And so if it has to be accessed, you have to go through the tiles or the terrazzo, and you have to open the slab to access it. The access would be covered, and whatever it's going to take to bring the property back to its pre-loss condition would be covered. In most instances, the actual line itself wouldn't, and that would be an out-of-pocket expense to the insured, to the homeowner, to yourself, to the property owner. Anything outside wouldn't be covered. The lines from the city line to your house is not covered. If that breaks, you'll definitely see a massive increase on your water bill, and it's something that you would have to address right away, or you're going to be financially in a crisis. I've experienced, we had a leak on the outside of the house. I got this ridiculous bill from my water company, and we came to some sort of an agreement, but still, it was substantial. We only found out 2 months later, and then we paid the price. So when you're dealing with something like this, it's always best to have representation on your side that looks out for your interests. More often than not, do we come in, an insured or a property owner, file the claim already, and have been through the ringer with the insurance company, have gotten nowhere, and now we're taking over from a month or two later when all of that stuff and all of our process could have started a month or two earlier, and you would have been much closer to getting your claim resolved, as opposed to being bounced around by your insurance company. A lot of times people go on vacation, they come home to houses that are flooded out. And flooded out, when I say flooded out, I mean water from a supply line or a pressurized line that leaked and flooded out the house. Not the other flood, which is rising water from the outside. There are two separate coverages, and there are two separate reasons to have insurance. One, the plumbing issue would be under your homeowner's policy. And then if you live in a flood zone and it's a requirement, then you would have a separate insurance for your flood. And we could discuss how each ones differ, but going back to what I was saying is that when people come back from vacation and they come back to a mess with water throughout their entire house, there's a way to avoid it. Before you leave on vacation, make sure you shut off the main valve to the house so that there's no pressurized water going through your home. And if there is a little bit just left over in the line, it'll be very limited, so that in the event that it does happen, you're not going to be coming home with all your suitcases to a disaster. When you do hang up nails, or you put anything into your drywall, there's devices you could buy at Home Depot or Lowe's that will help you indicate where there's either moisture, like heat, or if there's any studs, and it'll detect metal or copper. So you could always purchase that before doing any aesthetic work in your property, so that you could avoid any issues with plumbing down the line. In the state of Florida, a lot of properties are on septic. It's the responsibility of the property owner to maintain your plumbing. So if every 2 years you have to empty it out, then that's gonna fall on you. And my advice is to do it, because whether you're single or you have a family, you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you can't use a toilet. As best as you possibly can, don't take it for granted. We live in a state where we still have septic issues in the 20th century, and you're going to have to maintain it on your own. And if you don't, then it could be a really shitty situation. Your public adjuster should be working on a contingency basis. There's no out-of-pocket cost to have a public adjuster come to your property to take a look at the property to see if you have a valid claim, to go over your policy with you. If you do have a valid claim and the claim process starts, you don't have any financial obligations until the claim is settled. Our fee is only coming out of the settlement amount. You don't have to pay any out-of-pocket costs to make sure the process gets started. Some people might mask themselves as a public adjuster and try to tell you that there is an upfront cost. You have to do your research, make sure that you know who you're hiring, and make sure you're hiring the best. As the industry got more popular, we get these random remarks from people like, oh, why do I need a public adjuster? Like, what are you gonna do? Why am I giving you contingency fee? Like, what is your value? To those particular people, I would sit down, I'll go over what the benefit of having a public adjuster is, and then how our company exceeds that. And some people, they find out the hard way, and we get a call a few weeks later saying, Josh, they're not even responding to us. Other people are experienced in dealing with insurance claims, or they've dealt with an insurance carrier in their past. They're like, we don't want to talk to them. We don't want to deal with them. Take it over, take it from the start, and just get going. If I show you numbers, even if I just say numbers, it sounds ridiculous. We had an insurance claim, and so that's why I'm even like, I don't like to share these numbers, only because it's so far apart from where the insurance company started to where we settled that it almost doesn't sound realistic. I'm talking about like insurance companies paying $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and the settlements being $500,000, $250,000, $300,000. The numbers, like if I show you from where they started to where we finished, it's almost unbelievable until you see it on paper. When we are able to go to our clients and say, hey, look, I know they wanted to give you 10 grand, but here we just secured a $250,000 settlement for you. They're like, what? Like, what world? How did you do that? I'm like, well, that's what we do. That's why we're licensed and we're bonded by the state of Florida. We're a regulated business. We don't pretend to know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this for years, helped thousands of people with their properties and with their damages. So when you're faced with a choice and you find yourself in a position that you need to hire a public adjuster or go through the process alone and pay out of pocket, it's a no-brainer. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Insurance Corner. I really hope that you learned something, and I'll see you on the next one.